Silver Slugger finalists, two of them, in fact.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 27th day of October in the year 2022. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? You are in the right spot, because that's what we do around here is we talk about the Colorado Rockies each and every single day, and we are proud to be your first listen of the day. If you like the show, if you want to tune in, that's what I was hoping for, Nicholas. You can keep me in check. You can ask your questions. You can be part of the show just like Nicholas Duval is and at Rock's Hot Takes. They're in the live chat. Subscribe to Locked On Rockies so you know when we're live on YouTube. Be part of the show. Ask your questions live. Hey, follow us on Twitter too at LO Rockies and me at Paul Holden 33. I'm your Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden. Been doing this podcast for a couple of seasons now and been following this team my entire life. So I'd like to think I know a thing or two about being a Rockies fan. Today on Locked On Rockies, we're going to talk about the Rockies' two Silver Slugger finalists. What that means for the Rockies. Is that a good sign? Does that mean the Rockies were better on offense than we thought this year? We're also going to talk about Patrick Saunders' mailbag and one potential free agent that the Rockies have on a, quote, preliminary list, whatever that means. But let's dive into the big news of the day today. The Colorado Rockies, a team that was not good on offense. Really, when you look at some of it, they had good batting averages. They did have some good offensive stats, but in terms of really being a dominant Rockies team and a dominant offensive threat, that wasn't the case for the Colorado Rockies this year. A team that struck out a lot, a team that wasn't coming up big in the clutch with clutch hitting, and a team that couldn't hit on the road. I mean, we know that for sure. But they did have some solid hitters, and two of them are being recognized, and that is another nomination for Colorado Rockies second baseman Brendan Rodgers. I mean, we mentioned, or I tweeted out that next year might be his breakout party. I think that now it's really been this year. We can get more of a look at Brendan Rodgers, but for him to be nominated for being one of the best hitters in baseball and be at best second baseman, best hitting second baseman in baseball, and one of the best defensive second basemen in baseball, Brendan Rodgers has arrived. He's being recognized by the league for being a good player, and that's a very, very good sign for the Rockies. Now, is he going to win the Silver Slugger? I don't think so. I think neither him nor other Rockies representative Charlie Blackmon are going to win, because the lineups and the roster, or the other finalists, were not only on better teams, but at moments where they came up in certain situations that just seemed to have better numbers. But let's go ahead and take a look. I know we've talked about it a few times, but let's get Brendan Rodgers' line this year for the Rockies here. And it was a good one. 266 batting average with 63 RBIs, 325 OBP, a slugging of 408, an OPS of 733, and an OPS plus of 96 plus, 140 hits in 527 at-bats, 13 of those hits being home runs. Now, when we look at the rest here, it's Jeff McNeil, it's Jake Cronenworth, it's Ketel Marte, it's Colton Wong. Let's take a look. Jeff McNeil has that batting average of 326, so a bit, about a good chunk higher there than Brendan Rodgers. And when you look at his line, 326, 382, 454, 836, with 62 RBIs and 9 home runs. So Rodgers actually does have something there in terms of more home runs than McNeil, who, if you kind of lead in batting average, I think you're going to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, for the Silver Slugger. I think that's a massive part of it. But there are still some things that Rodgers did better this year, with including using the long ball a little bit more and actually getting one more RBI than McNeil as well. But again, I think that batting average is going to play a big role. Let's take a look at Cronenworth here as well. Cronenworth with that 239 average, that 332, 390, 722 OPS with 88 RBIs and 17 home runs, 140 hits. A lot of strikeouts there too. So Rodgers probably would have the advantage over Cronenworth in terms of that. And going into the other one, so maybe this one's a little bit closer than I thought. Rodgers is actually pretty good, but I think one person we did see a lot this year, someone that should be in a pretty good solid spot for it as well, is Ketel Marte. Marte this season with that 240 batting average, 321 OBP, 407 slugging, 728 OPS, home runs at 12. Pretty similar line there, less at bats than Rodgers as well. There seems to be a kind of a pretty similar. I mean, the averages don't separate too much. So Rodgers might have a stronger case than these others, but Marte, because he has the higher batting average than Marte and Cronenworth, not higher than McNeil. Let's see about Colton Wong here as well for the Brewers. 251, 339, 437, 69 is the line for him. But Marte has the 15 home runs, or Wong, I should say, 15 home runs, 108 hits in 430 at bats. Interesting. I thought this one was going to be a little bit more in the favor of McNeil, but when we really break it down and when we look at it, I think Rodgers has a better case, but McNeil looks to be the favorite in my opinion here. He has considerable less strikeouts than anybody else. He's got 40 walks that he's gotten on the season, which is less than Rodgers, but Rodgers struck out 101 times this year compared to McNeil only striking out 61 times. And the line again for McNeil looks a little bit better than Rodgers, even though Rodgers does have the higher slugging. And actually, no, I'm sorry. I looked at the OBP. He does he have? Yeah, he's got the does not. Sorry, I was getting them mixed up because I was looking at CBS and Baseball Reference, but it looks like McNeil is the probable lock for the Silver Slugger. But you look at these other lines, you look at the production of the other finalists, you could easily say that Brendan Rodgers was the second most valuable batter at second base in the National League this year, especially when you kind of look at some of these lines. I think that the Rockies or that you'd benefit. Cronenworth has almost 30 more strikeouts than Brendan Rodgers. I think he actually 30 on the nose. Yeah, 30 more strikeouts on the year. And again, that lower batting average, he's got the lower slugging, he's got the lower on base percentage not by much for on base percentage, but that's a big factor. And again, I think it's probably a higher batting average than Marte here, who also had a really good season. A lot of similarities there between the two. So I don't think Rodgers is going to win, but when we break down, when we look at the numbers, Rodgers had a pretty good year when you compare it to the other finalists. But for the second base category, Jeff McNeil looks to be in the driver's seat. Let's take a look at Charlie Blackmon's chances for the Silver Slugger. But before we do that, why don't you bring the Silver Slugger to the workplace and make sure that you're getting the deal done while also being comfortable. Why did I say the Silver Slugger? Well, I mean the Silver Slugger of dress shirts. And that's because Rhone's commuter shirt is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible shirt known to man, and here's why. Rhone's comfortable four-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy whatever life throws your way, from your commute to work to 18 holes of golf. Whatever you need, you're going to look good and feel good doing it in the commuter shirt from Rhone. It's time to feel confident with a wrinkle-free shirt without the hassle. With Rhone's wrinkle release technology, wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the shirt. It's that easy. With Gold Fusion anti-odor technology, you'll be smelling fresh and clean all day long. And on top of that, Rhone is 100% machine washable, so you can ditch the dry cleaner altogether. The commuter shirt can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next, whether that be practice with the kids, whether that be date night, whether that be a late night business deal. Rhone's commuter shirt is the one for you. Head to Rhone.com/lockedon and use promo code LOCKEDON to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/lockedon and use code LOCKEDON. It's time to find your corner office comfort at Rhone.com/lockedon. RHONE.com/lockedon. In the live chat here, at Rock's Hot Take says, if Rodgers wins either Silver Slugger or Gold Glove, he's likely going to be traded. I think the approach to beef up the pen would be the idea. There has been talks about that. It is really interesting when you consider what the Rockies could do. You pivot if the Rockies do, in fact, move Brendan Rodgers, who I don't think they will. I think they want Rodgers around, but it's definitely could happen. Rodgers would be moved, and then to get the bullpen, maybe that starter. Perhaps if you're going to trade Brendan Rodgers, you better be getting a good haul because he is going to be getting better and better. He is entering his prime, and this is really his first biggest, most consistent look into Brendan Rodgers was this year. And what did he do? Gold Glove defense, Silver Slugger on offense. So if the Rockies do make that move, it better be a good haul. And you can make the moves to pivot. You can move McMahon to second. You could put Montero there as your everyday third baseman if that's going to be your plan. And you have that to go for there with Tovar at shortstop or whoever they may sign to fill that position. But I'm going to imagine they're going to turn to the young guys. Alec Hart says, what's up? I say, what's up to you, Alec? Thanks so much for jumping in to the live chat. Following that up with, obviously, Blackmon won't win it, but it's cool to see him get recognition after I thought he was regressing fast a couple years ago. It's interesting because Charlie Blackmon was a pretty good hitter this year, but by Charlie Blackmon standards, he still kind of was slipping down into not that great. Or not as good, I shouldn't say that, because he did finish with a 264 average, an OBP of 314, a slugging of 419, and an OBS of 733. But you mentioned a regression. Charlie Blackmon has been decreasing in batting average now 4 straight years. He increased his batting average from 291 to 314 in 19, and maybe the pandemic season again is a tough one to swallow there. But since being an all-star in 19, his batting average has gone down. Same with his OBP, same with his slugging, and same with his OPS. He's also seeing, he is seeing less plate appearances, but not by a ton. And of course, he's getting older. So that's one thing to recognize, that when you're looking at Charlie Blackmon, when you're worried about that regression, it's starting to show. However, that regression is still leading to the point where Charlie Blackmon is an effective hitter. Charlie Blackmon's going up against Josh Bell, Albert Pujols, Luke Voit, Justin Turner, and Bryce Harper missed out on the Silver Slugger by 1 game. If Bryce Harper was eligible to win, I think that would be a no doubt about it. Josh Bell, when you're looking at it, 266 batting average this year, an OBP of 362, and an OPS of 784, a home run of 17, and RBIs at 71. Comparing that to Charlie Blackmon's 16 RBIs and 16 home runs with 78 RBIs. I think when they're calculating and when you're breaking down the Silver Slugger for the DH, one thing that's different than I think the other position players, run generation and RBIs should be something that is considered to be a big deal. Blackmon seems to be on pace when you look at the numbers with Bell, so kind of comparable there. But here's the big interesting wrinkle. Are they going to give it to Albert Pujols for the fact that he had the magic season? He did the home runs. It was the final season. He's back in there. And he finishes with a respectable line, 270, 345, and 550 on the slugging and an OPS of 895. He does finish the year with a good amount of home runs, 24 home runs, pretty insane for Albert Pujols as well, who also drove in 68 this year. How more? Is the Pujols home run more impactful and more influential and more important for that award than the RBIs generated from Blackmon? We'll see. But I think Albert's going to be a favorite just because of that name there. Luke Voit here now. Played on a bad team, so we'll see if that impacts it there. But finishes the year 254 average, an OBP of 342, an OPS of 818. That was his career. I should say his average this year is 226, OPP of 308, and OPS of 710. 22 home runs, 69 RBIs, the 113 hits. Again, another when you're kind of looking at the numbers, Charlie Blackmon's still hanging in there with a pretty good look there. Still not as good on the batting average as Pujols there, and I believe just below Let's take a look at the Dodger, though. Justin Turner, not that great in the postseason, but this year, 278, 350, 438, 788 line. He finishes the year with 81 RBIs, 13 home runs. My, oh my, that's a pretty good line there. Justin Turner and Albert Pujols probably going to be my two votes there for the Silver Slugger. But Charlie Blackmon coming in third in that race isn't going to be a bad thing. That's a nice little, like we said, that's a nice, good thing for Charlie Blackmon. Hitting is his thing. It should continue to be his focus and what the Rockies want to use from him in terms of what he's going to be doing at this point in his career with one more season. If he's still if he can produce near Silver Slugger levels this year, hopefully he can recreate that and do that again for the Rockies next year when he exercises his option and returns and just focuses mostly on his offense. So, again, the Rockies players, those two do have a compelling case for the Silver Slugger. I think that the maybe the lack of postseason, the lack of success, and lack of road hitting might get in the way, but the Rockies at least aren't going to be kind of didn't just eke in there as much as I thought when it comes to those Silver Sluggers when we compare the lines and when we look at them. But I don't think the Rockies are going to end up with any Silver Slugger winners. And I would maybe put Brendan Rodgers more likely over Charlie Blackmon. Actually, no, I'd probably put Charlie Blackmon over Rodgers because McNeil seems like a more lock. Trying to think if I missed anything. Nope, I think that's about it for that conversation. Let's shift gears to what we saw and heard in Patrick Saunders' mailbag for a potential slugger to come to the Rockies, which would be very, very interesting. It would take a lot of work to get it done, but we'll see. But before we dive into that, check this out. We are talking Rockies each and every single day, like we do all the time right here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. If you have your questions, you can ask them and have them answered live here in the live chat, just like Alec Hart, Nicholas Duval, and at Rocks Hot Takes have. The Rockies apparently have a preliminary list of free agents, and that's according to Patrick Saunders' mailbag. You can go check it out. They're from the Denver Post, but one player that they have in mind is Brandon Nimmo, and this would be a slam dunk for the Rockies. It's going to be very hard to get this deal done, but he's a lefty. He plays good defense, and he can lead off. That's going to be something that the Rockies definitely want. And what did he do this year? I don't know, just put up a 5 WAR with a 274 batting average, 64 RBIs, an OBP of 367, a slugging of 433, and an OPS of 800. That's exactly what the Rockies are looking for, and 16 home runs to boot. If the Rockies were able to get 16 home runs from their leadoff man with the addition of so much extra base potential from someone like Nimmo, this would be an absolutely great move for the Colorado Rockies. Now, there's a lot of if you read in Patrick's piece, and as you can hear, the Mets are very interested in keeping Nimmo around and making sure that they are that he's going to be there. They like Nimmo. He's liked in New York. Sounds like it's going to be hard to get done, but again, that it is going to be tempting. If the Rockies can present a tempting offer and present an offensive player with the temptation of Coors Field, that might be enough. They were able to get Chris Bryant into Colorado. Can they do it again with someone like Nimmo? But again, it's how much are the Rockies really willing to go in and bet on free agents and go after some big names there? And if you go after someone like Nimmo, how much is that going to impact your ability to go out and get pitching, which you really need to? The Rockies need a lot of things. So they either need to be ready and willing to commit to some of their prospects and commit to that, or dive in and go after someone like Brandon Nimmo. I think that is something that the Rockies at least hopefully will explore seriously. And if they do get Nimmo, that's going to be a great addition to this Rockies team and will make an interesting case for what's going on with some of the pieces of their outfield and what they do with the outfield as well. But hopefully the Rockies aren't just going to let it pass by. Hopefully they actually are serious about getting involved of a player of Nimmo's caliber, and we will see what happens as the offseason continues to go on here. But one note that we didn't talk about with Brendan Rodgers as well, he did win the Fielding Bible fielding award. He had the highest amount of runs saved, and he's already racked up some hardware. So Rodgers already ahead of some of these bigger awards being announced. He himself has added to his trophy case, which is a big deal, which is a big applause. It might not be that big of a deal, but for someone like Rodgers, I'm sure it's great to be recognized, and it's great that the Rockies have a player that's producing at the top of the league caliber level. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you, Nicholas Duval at Rocks Hot Takes and Alec Hart for being in the live chat today. You can follow the show at LO Rockies on Twitter. You can follow me at Paul Holden 33. And you can also check out all the things that we do on all sorts of we were getting a little spam bot attack here at the end, but you can find out what we do at LO Rockies on Twitter. You can find what we do at all sorts of stuff with the Locked On Sports Today podcast, which you can make your second listen of the day. And you can find all things going on in the world of sports. And if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with all things Colorado sports, why don't you check out the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, and Locked On Nuggets podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure that you enjoy the rest of your day. And until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked